YishaYahu chapter 2, verse 1. And it says, the word that Yeshayahu, the son of Amoz, saw concerning Yehudah and Jerusalem. And it shall be in the latter days that the mountain of the house of Yahweh is established on the top of the mountains, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow to it. So when he says the latter days, obviously he's talking about our time, that the mountain of the house of Yahweh, which means Sion, right, known as Zion, the main mountain that Yahweh chose for his city, says is established on the top of the mountains. So that means that it will be the most important place on earth, because that'll be the capital of the kingdom of Yahweh on earth. So mountains represent kingdoms, and in this case, that's why it will be on top of the mountains, because it will be the kingdom of kingdoms, for it will be the King of Kings who will rule from it. And it shall be exalted above the hills. Also, normally mountains are seen as male, and hills are seen as female. So we could talk about kingdoms and peoples, right? The nations. And that's why he says, and all nations shall flow to it. All nations shall flow to it. So it is important to know something that we were not taught in Christianity, that even though we will be going to the kingdom of Yahweh, which is not in heaven, is on earth, there will be nations on earth, not just us, not just a nation, but the nation, and it will be surrounded by the nation. So all nations shall flow to it. Like I said, it will be the most important kingdom, and that's why all nations will go to it to ask for help. Like when a country is very powerful, normally the rest of the countries go and ask for whatever help they can get. And as we know, we are in a world of the enemy, so normally um, that goes very bad. Like for instance, USA helping Ukraine with Russia and all of that, and uh, so supposed to be helping and doesn't help those who live here, right? Because they're sending your money to other people who are just have nothing to do with this country. So, but that's for another day. So all nations shall flow to it, and many peoples shall come and say, "Come and let us go." There was something else I wanted to say. All nations shall flow to it. Yeah, pretty much that all the nations shall need us, pretty much. Remember that it's written in the book of Revelation that the nations shall have to come to us for the leaves of the tree of life, which will be for the healing of the nations. So that means that the nations will need healing, and that means that they will need us for that healing. So we could say that in a way, that's how Yahweh will keep them. Uh, sounds weird, but in line. You know what I mean? Sadly, yeah. So come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Jacob, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in his paths. For out of Zion comes forth the Torah, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. So I'll read it again. And well, as I was saying also, which I didn't finish this little part, in Christianity, they never tell us that there will be nations. They only talk about everybody going to heaven if you're a Christian. But they forget that scripture talks about several groups, one main one, and then all the nations around it. As we see also, for instance, in the book of Revelation, when the wedding of the Lamb, which we read the other time, um, there are, well, we have the groom, which is the Messiah, we have the bride, which is the congregation, and then we have people who are invited to the wedding, and they we're never told in Christianity who they are, and as we know, they are the many. So now, when it comes to the nations, he says, and many people shall come and say, come and let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, meaning to his kingdom, to the house of the Elohim of Yaakov. So look how it mentions Yahweh, which is the name, and then it mentions Elohim, which is the title. It mentions the mountain, and then it mentions the house. So one is the kingdom, the other one is the temple. It mentions Yaakov, right, which is the name of Israel before he became Israel. The mountain of Yahweh, to the house of the Elohim of Yaakov, and let him teach us his ways, and let us walk in his paths. So you see how he says, let us go up to the mountain of Yahweh, that's one. To the house of the Elohim of Yaakov, that's two. So two ways of saying the same thing, because it's the same place, it's the same idea. And then he says, and let him teach us his ways, one. And let us walk in his paths, two. Two ways of saying the same thing. So that is, as Yahweh is one, yet he manifests as first and last. So here we have it, Yahweh Elohim, his ways, his paths. Let him teach us so that we can walk in the way he teaches us. For out of Zion comes forth the Torah, one, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem, two. Right? Now it's interesting. So it's two, 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 which made six. And 6,000 years is the time that would take for the latter days to happen, to come, meaning for this to manifest. And by saying doing it like that, two, 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 it connects with history in the sense that, remember, that first reigned death, then the law and the prophets, and then came favor and the truth through Yahushua. 2,000 years, 2,000 years, and 2,000 years. So for out of Zion comes forth the Torah. Zion means it means a place that is burned by the sun, dry, pretty much. So it says, Zion comes forth the Torah. The Torah is the instruction and is connected to the throwing of an arrow. Remember that the last comes with a bow and is the witness like Moshe. So he comes as the consuming fire. So it connects with Zion, the meaning, and with the Torah, because Moshe wrote the Torah. And the word of Yahweh, we know Yahushua is the word of Yahweh. We read it in Revelation 19:13 that the word of Yahweh is the name of the Messiah. So, and the word of Yahweh from Jerusalem. Interestingly enough as well, Torah means instruction. Jerusalem means the instruction of shalom, peace. Yeru can be seen as coming from Yireh, which means he will provide, but also from, well, the original would be from Yara, which is he threw, as in he threw an arrow. From Yara is that we get Torah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So Jerusalem means the shad or instruction of shalom. And he shall judge between the nations, and shall reprove many peoples, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither teach battle anymore. So this is huge, and obviously it has not happened. So we know that it is what's coming for the next life after the transformation, because all the nations will be judged by Yahweh. Even during eternity, they will come to us, and Yahweh will use us because he will give us the judgment. And then he says, and they shall beat their swords and plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. So all the weapons, all the things that they use metal for in order to kill, they will be melted and turned into tools to make the land go give fruit. So instead of using metal to kill, it will be used to give food and therefore to give life. And in that time, nation shall not lift up sword against nation. There will be no war, neither teach battle anymore. O house of Jacob, come and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. Come and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. As we know, Yahushua said, I am the light. So if one knew scripture when he said that, then this is one of the verses one could think of, right? Because it says, "Oh, house of Jacob, come and let us walk in the light of Yahweh." So how interesting that he mentions a couple things that Yahushua said to be both. Walk in the light. He said, "I am the way and the light." So come and let us walk in the light of Yahweh. So let us walk in Mashiach, in Yahushua. That is verse 5. Let me see in the Hebrew real quick. All right. Be'or Yahweh. Yeah. In the light of Yahweh. Then he says, "For you have forsaken your people, the house of Jacob. For you have forsaken your people, the house of Jacob, because they have been filled from the east. Because they have been filled from the east and practice magic like the Philistines. And they are pleased with the children of foreigners." Obviously, we were forbidden from practicing magic, yet the people of Israel started doing so when they got mixed with the Philistines, in the sense of when they started to use their same practices, behaving like them, and then getting wives from them. And that's why it says, "And they are pleased with the children of foreigners," because they will get children through foreigners. And the problem is not as it is nowadays, just because they're foreigners. The problem is they will teach your children to worship somebody else. They will teach your children to hate Yahweh, to behave against the commandments. And that is the problem to which scripture refers when it says this, right? Sadly, humans, because of their hatred and their bunch of things that uh, we get from sin and the flesh and the inclination to evil, will read this and see it. Like, for instance, the ones you've been calling, right? Talking about, I'm gonna say, maybe eventually I'll say when I'm in Costa Rica, but the yeah, exactly. So the false Yehudim, well, the false Yehudim, which would be Yehudim, they call them poos over here. So I have to say, so disconnected and everything. What did he say? So like virus in the computer. Um, so uh, they so practice magic like the Philistines, and they please. Yeah, what I was gonna say is, for instance, in the Talmud, they write that Gentiles are as animals, that they, and obviously they're talking about us too, even though we're not, but they refer to us as animals in human shape. So they believe that raping a person, even a girl, is not rape. Killing is not murder. And I'm sure all of these words that I'm saying, all the algorithms in YouTube will be like, hide him. But anyways, I said it already. So they talk that way about foreigners or Gentiles because of that I was saying, inclination to evil, because what they think about themselves, a bunch of other things, and because they take verses like this and misinterpret them in the worst ways possible. And they are pleased with the children of foreigners, right? I repeat, that refers to having children with people that are under a different yoke, under a different mighty one. And many people really don't care about that because they don't really care about Yahweh. Like for instance, we were talking, there are a lot of people, for instance, for example, in every other religion it happens, but in Latin America, for instance, a lot of people are Catholics, are born Catholic. And it's hard for people to just uh, leave Catholicism because of tradition, right? So many times a Catholic marries a Christian and they don't see any problem in that. Most of the time they say we both Christians, we both believe in Christ, right? And that's like the idea. But many times they also marry a Muslim, they marry a Buddhist, whatever, because they really don't care about spirituality. They just care about what they want at the moment, and that person is what they want, and that's it. But if you really, really care about spirituality, if you really care about worshiping the Creator, that is pretty much the main thing when it comes to choosing a partner. It has to be the same belief. And that's why there are so many issues, sadly, and I really mean it very sadly, with couples who have come to the congregation uh, after they were married. And well, I said couples, but with people who have come to the congregation after being married and their partner doesn't want it, doesn't care, or doesn't like it. So that becomes a very big issue and a test, huge test for those who go through it, because there are several in the congregation going through it, and it's very sad because there's nothing like having a partner who believes in the same mighty one, and that will help so much in every sense to come to and obviously there will be differences of opinion and everything always, because it's female and male, so that's it. But if you have the same mighty one, you will always come to this, to an agreement, right? One of the two will accept that the other one was right if they're both humble, right? Um, so, and I'm sure many who are married would have a lot to say there, and jokes, but I'm not gonna do the jokes. I don't want to fight. Like, got two couples in front of me. I don't want problems. Keep the peace. Exactly. Um, sorry. So, and they are pleased with the children of foreigners, and their land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures. And their land is filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots. So they were very prosperous, which is interesting because a lot of people think that being prosperous in the material way, right, in the physical sense, means that you are loved in the heavens, that you are loved by the Most High, that you're doing everything right. And many times is not the case. Many, like, remember, I always say that to a righteous person, a curse becomes a blessing. Obviously, a blessing remains a blessing. But when somebody tries to curse a righteous person, he will be blessed, even if it is through pain, even if he has to go through it, right? But to a wicked person, even a blessing will be a curse. He will become a curse, because even if he feels good about everything that he's receiving, by not giving credit to the one who gave it to him, by taking the credit, by saying that he did it, by not using it correctly, will condemn himself because he had it and didn't use it correctly, while others who didn't have it were actually more faithful, more obedient, more righteous. You know what I mean? Because many people say, if I had that, I would be different. And maybe different in a worse way. Like, yeah, different like bad. A lot of people get money and they lose it. So it says, and their land is filled with silver and gold. That is one of the things that has fooled many Christians, sadly, because of the prosperity gospel. When they get money, they're like, oh, I'm doing things good. And if they get in the congregation with the true doctrine, and they have to go through tests, because we all have to, because remember, there is the immersion of water, which we did, the immersion of the spirit, which happened there, and then the spirit of the immersion of fire, which is to go through tests. And many people don't like it. And the first test, they're like, I'm out. That's a sign that this is not the true, because they believe that the true religion means having it easy, and that's not the case. So, and their land is filled with silver and gold, and there is no end to their treasures, and their land is filled with horses. That connects with war. They would get horses for two reasons: either to go to fight, to make war with other countries, or to bet on races. So, and their land is filled with horses, and there is no end to their chariots. And their land is filled with idols. Ricardo sent me a video, really short, that said something like, what was it? It was like, as soon as Moshe went for the tablets, the Israelites, right? And then they showed like hundreds, maybe thousands of people, Catholics, around an image of Mary, but going crazy with it. Like, I cannot believe it, how crazy they get, how I mean, I just don't get it, to be honest. Obviously, thankfully. But as we see it here, and their land is filled with idols. I have mentioned when I went to several countries in Latin America this past couple years, I was surprised that like I thought Costa Rica was very like idolatrous. I thought that there was a lot of idolatry, but when I went to the rest of Latin America, I realized we were fine. Like, I mean, it's crazy. Mexico, Venezuela, Colombia, Peru. I mean, the idolatry is everywhere. And like the thing is that it doesn't even look nice. It looks evil. You know what I mean? It's so weird. And when you're a kid, you know it because you feel it. But the parents are like, take it, like behave, right? He's dead, right? So it is very clear. Now, the States doesn't have that type of idolatry as much. It seems very clean. And I do like this because it is clean in the literal sense. The roads and everything is beautiful. But then, like for instance, in this trip, I have seen a bunch of lodges of masonry, right? Freemasonry all over the place. And we know that's another type of idolatry. And like more direct towards Lucifer, but still idolatry. And I say direct because the other one is also for Lucifer, of course, but they don't know. They don't realize it. Which is another thing that I noticed when going to Mexico, that they don't realize that they worship Mary and death the same way, as if it is the same spirit, and they don't notice it. Like I said the other day, I was watching some news where they were having rezo, right? Like they do these meetings, like in Catholics, they do these meetings where they pray, but it's not pray, it's like recite, like they repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat, pretty much. And they were doing this, but for death, the spirit of death. And a candle fell and started burning, and it killed a baby. So they had the funeral at the Catholic Church with Mary. And I was like, don't you see the connection and the fact that there's a reason why it happened? So it was very sad. Um, so yeah, I mean, the enemy, like it is written, Lucifer will appear as an angel of light. So there are many ways in which idolatry manifests. Um, and many people think that what they do is not idolatry, but what the other religion does, it is. You know what I mean? Like Christians believe they don't have idols, but they do. They have the same image of Jesus in their mind and in many other things that they use. Same image, same false name. Yahweh said not to make images. And remember that imagination is what we have in our mind to make images. So, imagination was given for us to make images in our head, and Yahweh said, "Do not make images or any of anything." So, if you say Jesus and you have an image in your head, that's an idol. If you're gonna worship it, know what I mean? So, and their land is filled with idols. They bow themselves to the work of their own hands. Most Catholics, when you tell them they are um like doing wrong by bowing or worshiping an idol, they say, "But we don't worship it. We just honor it." I'm like, it's the same. It's a synonym. Or we don't worship it. It represents the one we worship. Yeah, but look how it says they bow themselves. Just that is worship. To go like, and they do more than that, and a bunch of things. Poor, well, you know how in I always make this joke about in the pandemonium that they had in Rome. They took it, which is the place where they have all the gods, like all the they worship the planets. So Mercury, Jupiter, uh, all of those they had them. They had images of all of them. So they grabbed that and they turned it into a church for Mary. But they took the main god, Jupiter, and took it to another part, and they started calling it Peter. So people go and worship Peter, which is actually the Jew Peter, right? How crazy that it is Jupiter, right? It's Jupiter, and they say is the Jew Peter. So
Research time.
to your so um they use Jupiter, they turn it to Peter, and people worship it because they say he's the first pope. So they go and kiss it, and kiss the statue's feet, and it's all like they've kissed it for so long that you can see like the difference in color of the statue, like from all the kisses. So nasty. So, so yeah, yeah, all dirty. And their land is filled with idols. They bow themselves to the work of their own hands, to what their own fingers have made. And Yahweh says it like that because obviously it is like that. But my point is that it's amazing that people don't see it. I mean, they make it themselves and then they worship it. How don't they get it that if they were able to make that, then they are superior than that? You understand? Like, if it doesn't move and you move, then you are bigger than that. That should worship you, not you, it. And that's what happened because when Yahweh made men through Elohim, Yahweh, Elohim, said, let us make men, then the angels made sure that they were the ones to be worshipped through the idols. So, since they had something to do with what has, well, with the flesh, reason why we have the inclination to evil in the flesh, then those who are in the flesh, instead of worshiping the Most High and knowing what the angels are, they started themselves making images to worship. You know what I mean? So they followed the pattern according to the wicked part, which was those of the angels who wanted to be worshipped. So the angels should worship us. Now, like I want to make clear, now we are partners, right? Angels and humans through Yahushua. And meaning the angels that accept Yahushua, of course, right? But my point is that they should worship us in the sense that we were made in the image and likeness of the Most High, while they were made as creations who are similar to animals in this reality. So Yahweh made us to be above them, yet they didn't like it. So that's why many of them hate us and turn against us.
Didn't Yahweh say he was going to allow us to judge angels?
Yeah, in Corinthians. So if we're going to have the authority to judge angels, that means we're going to be greater than angels. And Paul says it as well, just like that. He made us less than angels for now, but we will be greater than. So, and their land is filled with idols. They bow themselves to the work of their own hands, to what their own fingers have made. And the lowly bows down, and the high is humbled. Therefore, you do not forgive them. Look how YishaYahu is telling Yahweh, do not forgive them. Which obviously contrasts what Yahushua said on the cross, forgive them for they don't know what they do. But what YishaYahu is saying here is pretty much they know what they're doing. Do not forgive them. Because they're worshiping what they themselves made and they know it deep inside. Makes no sense. And the lowly bows down and the high is humbled. Therefore, you do not forgive them. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust because of the fear of Yahweh and the splendor of his excellency. Remember that during the sixth seal, people will hide under the rocks and will tell them to please cover them from the anger of Yahweh, from the day of Yahweh that begins on the sixth seal. So enter into the rock and hide in the dust. Now, interesting that it says hide in the dust, because man was made from dust and he will return to dust. So in a way, it's like they will try to hide even by dying. You know what I mean? But even in Sheol, no one can hide from Yahweh. Enter into the rock, which is interesting as well, because Yahushua is the rock. So the only true salvation is to enter into the rock, that being Mashiach, not a literal one. But since they worshipped literal rocks, they will enter into a literal rock that won't save them. Enter into the rock and hide in the dust because of the fear of Yahweh and the splendor of his excellency. The lofty looks of man shall be humbled. The pride of man shall be bowed down. And Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. It's beautiful. Hey, what's up, Harper? What you looking for? Oh, there's bananas for present too. She asked for a banana, and we brought the banana. Like, you want bananas? No. Like, yeah, exactly. So, but what, the big one, the one that, or another one? Oh, the pink. I think I saw that, but oh, maybe when we fix the table. So the lofty looks of men shall be humbled, which I love, for many reasons, and that is obviously, if we are smart, then we should understand that being humble is the best, the best decision. However, this world teaches to be puffed up, lofty. Well, to have a lofty look, pretty much. The lofty looks of men shall be humbled, the pride of men shall be bowed down, and Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day, the day of Yahweh. Meaning that in that day it will be known that only Yahweh is the true creator, and all those idols were just that, idols. You know, there's another play on words that I do in one of my songs. That, you know how funny that idol is called that? Because it's a doll of the eye of Lucifer. Idol. So it's um just a doll that you use to worship the enemy. For Yahweh of hosts has a day against all that is proud and lofty. Remember that Lucifer failed because of that. He wanted to be like the Most High, get right next to him, and be like him. And not that it is a sin to want to be like him, because we all should imitate him and be like him, but the way he made for us to be like him, not in our own way, which is what Lucifer tried to do. For Yahweh of hosts has a day against all that is proud and lofty, against all that is lifted up, so that it is brought low, and against all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and against all the oaks of Bashan. Right? Lebanon was known for its trees. Well, it still is, but back in the day, those were the biggest trees in the whole world. And you know, there are some giants, like the true trees. The trees that we have nowadays are just branches of the previous trees in when it comes to size. And Bashan as well, the cedars and the oaks represent strong people, as priests and kings, for instance, which are normally the ones who get lifted up the most. And against all the cedars of Lebanon that are high and lifted up, and against all the oaks of Bashan. We could see it as priests and kings, cedars and oaks. And against all the high mountains, kingdoms, and against all the hills that are lifted up, peoples, nations, and against every lofty tower, and against every strong wall, and against all the ships of Tarshish. I find that so interesting that Yahweh talks about these ships of Tarshish so many times, because one of the beliefs is that Tarshish is Spain. And remember that most of our ancestors were brought from Spain on ships from Tarshish. So Yahweh is talking about how he will punish all who did wrong to us throughout history, and obviously even those of us who did wrong, they will be punished. So he even includes those boats from Spain. And against every lofty tower and against every strong wall. You see how he's mentioning everything that is high, he's going to bring it down. Because everything that is high represents something that stands against him or that tries to take his place. And against all the ships of Tarshish and against all the desirable craft. And the loftiness of men shall be bowed down, and the pride of men shall be brought low, and Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day. So imagine in 1,000 years how much happens, how many religions come and go. Many times, well, many times, I mean, in the sense that in 1,000 years, several will come and go. Christianity in 1,000 years changed a lot or turned into a bunch of different denominations. So Yahweh says in that day, meaning the 1,000 years that are about to start, Yahweh will be the only one that everybody will know as mighty one. There will be no different names, no different religions, no different beliefs, no different opinions. It'd be nice that not having bad opinions because everyone has one. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks, like I mentioned, Revelation 6 during the I jumped one verse, sorry. And Yahweh alone shall be exalted in that day, and the idols completely pass away. Completely pass away. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks, as in the sixth seal of Revelation 6, and into the caves of the earth, from the dread of Yahweh and the splendor of his excellency, when he rises to shake the earth mightily. Remember that he shook the earth in the time of Noah during the flood. That's why Yahweh said that the coming of the Son of Man will be like the days of Noah. And we read in Haggai, and also Paul writes that Yahweh this time will not only shake the earth, but this time he will shake the heavens and the earth. So if he's going to shake the heavens, that means that what he did on earth to humans during the flood will happen in heaven, meaning Yahweh will get rid of all angels who are not his. Only a few will remain, like Noah and his family, because he will shake heavens and earth in order to make new heavens and new earth. And they shall go into the holes of the rocks, and into the caves to the earth, and into the caves of the earth, from the dread of Yahweh and the splendor of his excellency, when he rises to shake the earth mightily. In that day, man shall throw away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made, each for himself to worship, to the moles and bats. This is interesting that he mentions these two types of animals who are said to be blind, right? Like those who worship idols. Fallen angels are like bats. Fallen humans are like moles. So, in that day, man shall throw away his idols of silver and his idols of gold, which they made, each for himself to worship, to the moles and bats. We could also say to the demons and the fallen angels, because moles are under, right? So, like those what well, demons are connected more with underground and darkness and Sheol, while fallen angels with the heavens and they fly, right? So bats.
They're both blind.
Exactly, and they're both blind, so they cannot see the light. They cannot see Yahushua, and that's why they are bad. And that's part of the reason, like the things that I mentioned, how Yahweh made everything to make us understand something that we cannot see. So everything we see represents something that we don't see. So that's why Yahweh created moles and bats. And then we will know why he created mosquitoes. I was telling them that those where we were, they were the most ketos. The most. Yeah, the most. That's the most keto. But funny when I say those plain words, and I guess I don't. I mean, like many people don't really know that I'm actually making a joke with the words, so I'm guessing in their heads, like, why does he repeat it again and again? I'm not trying to make the person get it. To go into the clefts of the rocks, to go into the clefts of the rocks and into the cracks of the rugged rocks, because of the fear of Yahweh and the splendor of his excellency, when he arises to shake the earth mightily. Cease from men whose breath is in his nostrils, for in what is he to be reckoned upon? Cease from men whose breath is in his nostrils. Start breathing from our mouth like that to avoid. Like when he comes, hey, Alpha, how are you? Yeah, exactly. That's why the nose is connected with anger in Hebrew. Anger is nose. Af. The af is the nose. And it also means anger because when you're angry, you can see it in the nose. Yeah, like, starting from here. In fact, it is said that if you know a person that has this marked a lot, it's because he gets angry a lot. If you got this marked a lot, it's because you laugh a lot. And then there was another one like with the forehead that I forgot. I think I laugh a lot. I get angry a lot. I I do a lot because I think I have them all a little bit because I'm still getting there. But as soon as I get there, you're gonna see that. So cease from man whose breath is in his nostrils, for in what is he to be reckoned upon? So just to so you see how interesting that he says, uh, cease from men whose breath is in his nostrils, because Yahweh is talking about his anger manifesting and kind of saying, what is the anger of men? It's nothing. Just like his life is nothing. It's in his nose. He knows. So and also like the connection with knowing and knows is connected with discernment because discernment is represented by smell, and that's why we had two nostrils to smell what's good and bad, and it represents discernment because you smell the air and the air represents the spirit. So discernment of spirits is like smelling the air and see, oh no, this person is not good. You see what I'm saying? Like needs a shower or something. So, baptism is what he needs. Yeah. So that's the connection. And that's why Yahweh talks about the last as being deaf and blind, but having good smell. In the sense that he will judge with his nose, not with the sight. We actually will see it in Isaiah eventually, like soon. Um, so he doesn't judge by sight, meaning appearances. He doesn't judge by ear, meaning what he's told about him or anybody. He judges by smell. So through spiritual discernment. Bless you. Did you know that one of the reasons, or mainly the main reason why we say bless you when somebody sneezes, is because it is said that that's how people used to die back in the day? Like there was no disease, so people would just be cool, fine, and all of a sudden, achoo, the soul would come out of the nose like that, because that's how it entered first. So it says that that's how it would go out through his sneeze. Can you imagine? So that's like, bless you, don't die. Like in Spanish we say salud, which is pretty much like health, like health. Get some health. Health me, please. Health me. Yeah, stay alive. Yeah. Mhm. So that's how that chapter